Hello and welcome to the Big 12 Mafia Holy Rivals Fearless Pick'em Friday. I'm your host, Nathan Balmer Brown. With me is a guy that's out of position. We got to put him in his rightful place.
There you go.
That's the Wild Ute, here to blast some Utah facts out to the world. In the bottom left-hand corner, we have the one, the only Moen Sports. Looking good, looking dapper, and wearing the biker gloves. I love it.
Nice.
And then last but not least is the factual master and the wizard of articulation, Immaculate View. How you doing, Immaculate?
Good, man. Good. Looking forward to watching the worst offense in the country get another win.
Before we get started, we already got people laying down the wood. Big Lubbock says Tech beats BYU. All right, Lubbock, we will talk about that because I definitely have an opinion. Before we get started, and I say hello to everybody, first I need to apologize about my voice. I was on Drake Toll's radio show this afternoon, and I think I sounded like I was in a duck blind or something. I felt really bad. But I hope that you guys will help cover me in case my voice begins to flag. The other thing is I want to thank everybody for being here. Please subscribe. Leave us a comment or suggestion. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know how we're doing for sure. And then turn on your notifications for both YouTube and for Twitter because we're hearing it all the time. I don't know how to find your show. How do I find out about the show and when's it going on? That all starts with these notifications. So we're glad to have everybody here. Let me drop into some thank yous and then we can jump into topics if that's okay with you guys. Nathan Campbell says, hi guys and the guest. I'm not sure who the guest is, but appreciate you being here, Nathan Campbell. Conundrum, who's the guest? That's funny. BR says, hey, all watching from the hospital. But I'm here. BR, tell us what's going on. You're in the hospital. Let us know. What, do we need to do, a little bit of a Ferris Bueller and put your name out to the world to start collecting pennies for your kidney transplant? Let us know. And we will be interacting. and definitely we will have our prayers for you. Billy Tuesday says, Bob Stoops. Bob Stoops in the house. I'm not seeing that. Billy Tuesday says I was close. So I'm not sure what that inside joke was. But let's see here. Conundrum. Nathan fought. Let's see. Nathan is here. Conundrum. Hella college football fan says, BR, hope you're doing to be okay. That's what we do here, people. We're a family. We support each other. Please let us know if there's anything we can do for you. Eugene is in the house. Eugene says, Moen, do you think that Arbaugh is taking lessons from Belichick?
He's far surpassed Billy Boy.
Oh my gosh, Eugene! I thought you were a paid member. For some reason, your name's not green today. Hopefully, you didn't cancel.
It is on.
Is it on yours?
Yeah.
Yeah, my screen's screwing up. Then for some reason, it's just gray. Well, I'm glad you're still green, Eugene. Thank you very much. Glenn Lumen is here, and he's still in Oregon, I believe. Eugene says, lol. So, sorry about that. It wasn't green when I was looking at it before. Let's see. Any more? Eugene says, I think he goes back to the NFL. We'll talk about Jim Harbaugh and Lincoln Riley before this show is over. Let's see if there's anything else. We already said the Big Lubbock says Tech beats BYU. Let's see. R Webb's in the house, one of our other paid members. He says Wild Ute is trying to pig bus himself with this Vegas stuff.
We need R Webb to call into the show. Come on, R Webb, why don't you give us a call? Seriously, let's get this guy.
R Webb, if you want to, just put a note here. If you want to join the show, I will DM you the link. We'd love to have you on.
And I'm turning out to be the Big 12 whipping boy over here. So if you want to give me a little lashing, go ahead.
Hall of Fame college football with Jason, the coach, is in the house. Good to see you, Jason.
3 weeks in a row, maybe.
I know. He says, beat SC. Jason, do you want to be part of our picks? If so, let me know. Send me a DM, and I'll send you the link when we do that, when we go through the pick time. See if there's anybody else. I love getting these haulers right at the beginning. College football peek around the corner with Greg.
22 to 20. What have you already started in on the whiskey there? We are not getting the over on this one.
Good to see you, Greg. I'm so glad you're in the house. If you'd like to join the show, send me a DM and I'll send you the link. We'd love to talk to you for a few minutes if you have time. We realize how busy you are. Minnesota 22, Iowa. Well, I guess we'll find out, won't we?
It's already started.
All right, let's go ahead and then Greg says beer.
Beer.
I love that. That's funny. All right. One last thing. I want to just thank everybody for coming back to our show. We've had high numbers of recurring viewers. Please tell your friends and family, anybody who's interested in college football or realignment, who we are and what we're doing here. This is a big deal for us to have people continue to watch, and we really appreciate everybody doing that with us. All right. If you want to become a paid member, go to the Big 12 Mafia or the Holy Rivals pages. In there, you'll see a link that says join. Click the link, and that'll walk you through the different format you can sign up to be a paid member. And I think that's it. So let's do our roundtable first at the beginning. What did you guys think about this week? What stands out to you? And before we get into topics, kind of catch everybody up where you're at. Let's start with you.
What's going on this week? Some Michigan news. This is hilarious. I can't wait to hear Moan's take on this. Honestly, like seriously, I imagine Ohio State fans are just dancing around with all this stuff going on in Michigan right now because who knows what the crackdown's going to be. But I think this is going to be so dang juicy, guys. Seriously, with like this military, guy that was on the staff and everything. Who knows what he was doing? What kind of like sneaky stuff over there. It's going to be so fun to watch this thing unfold. And I have no idea what kind of sanctions are going to come down. But if I'm an Ohio State fan, I am just laughing and enjoying everything. But that is the talk of the town right now. So it's all about Michigan football in the wrong way.
Very good. I love it. Moen.
Yeah, Michigan and the ACC situation starting to work itself out. But definitely Michigan.
That's all
That's
you want
it?
to say?
Come on. Come on.
I'll do it when we get to that segment. I will read it.
He's holding it in. You know
Okay.
he's just
All right,
it
that's
in.
fine. That's fine. All right, and you, Immaculate. Anything off the top of your head?
Definitely the Michigan thing. That looking forward to that talk between us. Fun times on X today with our very own Wild Dude. He was definitely getting the party going. I found it interesting how the Big 12 is actually signing all of these tournaments extensions now before some of the other schools come in to vote. That was an interesting little political play there internally. But to be doing that,
well, smart. I think you can read that as smart.
I'd say smart, but
the
interesting
narrative
is you're doing it sooner than you probably need to, but you're also doing it before you finish your football schedule.
Right.
And he even came out himself saying, oh, we're looking at, maybe November, but probably December, hopefully before January. But they're doing all this work to get these tournaments done. So it's an interesting priority to have that they see it as that important to do.
All right. Very fair. For me this week, I think the thing that stands out to me most is silence. We got no updates this week about the lawsuit for the Pac-2.
Yep.
We got no updates from Washington State or Oregon State. No, none of these big announcements that they'd been doing one a week. A message from the president or a message from the AD. We didn't receive any of that out of the Pac-2. So I'm going to say silence is probably a good thing. Obviously, there's no facts behind that, but I've got a feeling that coming out of this, there might be some change on the horizon. And I know we're looking at the middle of November for that to actually close out and to have that hearing done for them trying to settle. We got a lot of time still to get there, but I think silence is good for Washington State and Oregon State. All right, let's move on to our first topic then. Let's just jump right in. It's going to be the college football playoff. College football playoff impacting OSU and WSU joining an AQ conference. Can they still claim the money? So let me bring up the article so everybody knows what I'm talking about. And Immaculate, why don't you start off on this one?
Okay. Let you bring that up, and then we'll go into pointing it out to folks. Are you bringing up the tweet?
Yes, I am right now. Yep.
Gotcha.
There you go.
Well, I'm sure most of you folks who are watching have seen or heard of Heather Dinich. She's with ESPN. She has been reporting on the CFP since as far back as I can remember. Maybe she hasn't been there since the very beginning of it, but I do believe she has. Here she is. She's talking to us about the rules for Michigan in terms of, whether or not they'll be eligible to play if this all goes badly. But intriguingly enough, we're talking about how the CFP follows NCAA rules. Now, in terms of OSU and WSU, some folks who think that they maybe don't have that strong of a position in the current situation have said the CFP doesn't have to follow NCAA rules. But here, the foremost authority on this is saying otherwise, that the CFP does follow NCAA rules. And that makes sense considering the conferences that make up the CFP also make up the NCAA. So they would basically not be following their own rules. So interestingly enough, as long as OSU and WSU can maintain their bowl eligibility, then they are eligible for the CFP. And if two of them are eligible for the CFP, then I don't understand exactly why the PAC would not be eligible for whatever payouts it's meant to get, considering their place as a power conference is based upon their agreement with the Rose Bowl, and the Rose Bowl is no longer having that game. So until I see otherwise, I think they're pretty good going forward with this, now that we know this for sure.
Moen or you, do you guys have any questions about what we're talking about here?
So you guys are saying that, in this article is alluding to that Oregon State and Washington State are going to be getting a share of CFP money that usually would just go to the Pac-12, but since it's the Pac-2, they're going to get all the funds because it's still technically an A5 conference. Am I understanding that correctly?
That would be the theory. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I think, to keep it layman's terms. Yeah, that's the simplest way to put it.
Pretty good.
I don't see it happening. I can see how the rules could point to that and stuff. Maybe I'm jaded. I just think that everyone else is going to figure out a way to make sure that doesn't happen. So
you're not saying there's an exact way to do it, but that somehow they'll figure
yeah,
out.
I mean, I don't think that. Here's my view of like the Pac-2. I don't think the Pac-2 is going to get any type of preferential treatment with access to any game or anything. I mean, you're talking about two teams that haven't even been Pac-12 contenders, guys. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Like, so I don't think that really any kind of funds are going to this Pac. I mean, the Pac's dead, and so I just think that
the rules. I mean, as that could happen, like no doubt. But the rules, as everything is written out, lead in the opposite direction. Now they would basically have to kind of ignore their own rules in the CFP in order to do what you're saying. Not that they won't, because it's a lot of money. So you could definitely be right on that. But everything that we're seeing so far is pointing to this basically being a comedy of errors, because all these rules were set up back in like 2014, 2015, whenever they started doing this. So if you think Notre Dame would have signed on thinking that it could just, be undone on a whim, because they were, they're the loner kind of on the outs, fighting against the conferences, so to speak. So I tend to think, because they agreed to this in the beginning, that there's probably some protections against that. And I think that those same protections that they probably agreed for Notre Dame at the time, because there's no way they saw this coming back then, that those same protections may now ironically protect, Oregon State and Washington State in the same manner.
So let's this is a great topic, and we have a ton of Washington State and Oregon State people that watch us, both live and recorded. So all this discussion, I'm sure they're going to be taking in and using. But this point here from Conundrum, I think, could be argued either way. The Pac-10 is stalling on the Pac-2. Time is on the Pac-10 side. Let's just go through that really quick. Do you guys think time is on the Pac-2 side, or is it on the remainder 10?
I think it's on the remainder 10, because they're in conferences. They've got the stability, whereas the Pac-2 has all the instability right now. So here, I'll be really honest with you guys. I think from a Utah standpoint and all these other schools, it's just not even a priority right now for these other schools. We're talking about getting used to joining these new conferences and everything. This is kind of on the back burner, I have to imagine, right? And this is everything for Oregon State and Washington State, but for Utah, ASU, they're worried about implementing into a new conference like Oregon State and Washington So I think that this is way on the back border. Time is all on their side because they don't need to. This isn't a priority for them and stuff. So I think the Pac-2 needs to get this done. I think Oregon State and Wazoo really need to work with them and make it more of a priority.
Their biggest challenge is creating, if they wanted to stay by themselves, to create football schedules for next year. Most people's schedules are locked down.
Yeah.
However, because of realignment, there have been some games that have opened up now. So it's possible that they could cobble together schedules, but that's their biggest challenge by themselves. Moen, what do you think?
I tend to agree. I think the 10 can just wait it out because they can afford it. The longer this drags on, the more expensive it gets for all parties.
Right.
The 10 schools that are actually in new conferences and receiving hefty media payouts can afford to just keep dragging it on.
Okay. Immaculate?
If you're to look at this, it depends upon how far back you want your perspective to go. If we're looking at this just in the pack itself, I would agree with both gentlemen. And to some degree, even as I take this, the spectrum back and look at it from farther back, I still agree with them. I do think that the Pac-10 has the ability to withstand this for a little bit longer. But I think once you start to look out at the bigger picture, there's going to be some other pressures. Like, you are going into these new conferences, and those new conferences are all part of the CFP business that's being held up. And so they're going to pressure you, get this thing solved, get this thing figured out, just as much as, OSU and WSU need to get things figured out for themselves. So while I definitely would probably lean a little bit with the gentleman saying that the Pac-10, I don't think it's as much as some might think. I think that they're also going to be facing pressures from the outside to get this fixed up, because without that fixed up, without, the new rules going into place for the CFP, I don't actually think the ACC moves can happen. That's just my opinion.
Right.
So I think that there's a lot more weighing on this.
I think the question has two parts for me, and I think maybe what you were saying, Immaculate, for Washington State and Oregon State, all the pressure's on them, right? They're the ones without a conference disintegrating. They're the one that they're incurring costs at this point now that they can't necessarily support. But I also think that there's external pressures, being mainly the college football playoff renegotiation and all that actually say time is on their side. So either way, it's a messy situation. I don't think it's cut and dried, how you look at the topic, but I think that's definitely where we are right now. So
this is what I'd be concerned about too. Like, I just kind of question the play here from Oregon State and Wazoo. Like, I get the financial aspect and everything, but you're trying to deal with recruiting, guys. And if you let your football team go irrelevant because you play this game, you lose a bunch of recruits because you don't know where you're going, you're toast. Like, you have to be able to, have some stability to tell recruits. Like, I'm looking here at 24/7, just the composite ranking. Oregon State was around 50th in the nation last year in recruiting. And right now they're sitting in the 62nd spot.
right.
Like, they can't let the slippage happen. That's what happens over time and stuff. The instability. You're gonna see kids not want to commit to your program. So
Yeah, that's just it. Exactly.
Right?
Eugene just said that, Ute.
Yeah,
He
he's
says
right.
biggest thing that OSU and WSU have been stating is not the schedule, but the transfer portal. Before I heard that from you, and before I just read that comment, I hadn't even thought about it.
They're going to be completely decimated in the transfer portal.
Right.
Seriously.
Right.
Unless they have stability.
It's a worry, but they just signed a 4-star tight end today. So I don't know what they're telling their guys. We had that rumor in the past that Washington State and Oregon State were telling their guys a certain story. Whether that means the story is true or not, I don't know. But right now, when you get a guy like that signed, they're telling them something. There's no way that they weren't asked that question during the recruiting process. So I'd be very interested in hearing what they're actually telling these guys right now.
Right.
All right, Moen, what do you got for us here? That's for Cleveland Rocks. Thank you so much for the super chat, Cleveland Rocks. You're a paid member already. You didn't have to, but we really appreciate the donation because we use that just exactly to keep the lights on. We're not getting rich over here. So I really appreciate your help, and all the subscriptions and everything I have to pay for it. It gets expensive. So thank you very much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. All right. Anything else you guys want to say before I move on to the next topic?
Nope, I think that was the tweet,
Okay.
and then
Just
with
checking.
the situation with the recruits. So that's
all right.
that's kind of the
Great.
story.
Let's go to the next one. The next one is ACC update. North Carolina State, UNC, Clemson, FSU. The voting that North Carolina State did, and I think this is something that you wanted to talk about first, right, Moen?
Yeah, this article, if anybody's interested in it, it's on the News and Observer, I believe is the name of the paper that comes out of the Tri-City area there in North Carolina. But it tells a very interesting story about how North Carolina State was initially very opposed. And it's a long article. We're not going to sit here and read the whole article, but I would suggest people take a look at it, look it up. Basically, a Wake Forest booster and an alumni contacted North Carolina State, and then suddenly North Carolina State changed their mind. And it basically tries to make it seem like North Carolina State simply changed their mind because the message changed. But I think it's one of those things where you got to read between the lines. North Carolina State was promised something for flipping that vote. In addition, this article mentions that inside sources believe Florida State will go independent, at least for the time being, once they leave the ACC. They believe that they will exit the ACC and become an independent school for the time being. They will go back to being an independent. So lots of interesting stuff in here. I mean, it's a really great story. I highly recommend you read it. It's, Andrew Carter and Corey Dean did a fantastic job on it. But it's very interesting to see how things were done in that ACC system. Now, the article says that North Carolina State claims there's no quid pro quo, but it also doesn't provide a very compelling argument for them changing their vote. So, very interesting article, though. There is definitely dysfunction within the ACC. And it's, if we listen to Greg's money perch over at college football, peek around the corner, it looks like FSU is now leaning SEC. Which is probably a good sign that UNC is leaning heavy big.
Okay.
It's interesting that you bring this up in terms of Florida State going independent because I don't remember who it was. I think it was someone here talked about the idea of there being a temporary conference set up for the schools that leave the ACC. Now that's kind of like almost like a group of independents in a way. And if you had, as long as I think if they have eight schools that are leaving, they could technically probably do that. I don't know, unless there's rules that give them like a probationary period where they couldn't do that. But I think they could. I don't know. Do you know about that at all, Moen?
Yeah, well, you only really need 6, and then you could just add Oregon State and Washington State to it.
Right.
And you can be just like they do with the Russian athletes.
Oh, imagine. I had not even thought of that.
The Conference of Independent Institutions.
That's right. Exactly.
That's
That's right. They don't perform for Russia. They perform for this union of
right
things because it's not them breaking the rules, right? It's the countries, and we all know it's the athletes. But anyway,
that's an interesting set of numbers there. 6 from the East and those 2. That does give you your 8.
Well, at least, and you get your scheduling model that way too.
Yeah.
What do you think about all this?
I think it's fascinating that Florida State is even talk of them going independent. Seriously, guys, we know
Full circle.
what the ACC exit fee and like the grant of rights costs and everything, and like you're gonna pay $500 million to go independent. Come on,
Yeah,
like that's nuts.
that's why it didn't ring true to me. That part of
It-
it, I just didn't believe at all.
unless the Saudis fund them or something, right? They just have some weird structure like that had come out,
Yeah, but the Middle
months
East was a
ago.
different place when that story started.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the only thing though, like just getting the money from some other.
Right, but you think people wouldn't schedule Florida State?
Oh, they'd
No, they
schedule Florida
would.
State.
They would.
I mean,
yeah.
that's money for them. I mean, that might actually be the best way to get out of the grant of rights by not
That's-
joining
yeah.
another
So what
conference.
what you're proposing is their away schedule. Any games
I'm
that
proposing
they're
all
their
their
home.
schedule. If they're an independent team, they have no allegiance to any conference.
I know, but don't they have to?
Their home games would still be
Only
owned.
their home games.
Their home
would have
games would still
media
be owned by
rights.
ESPN.
I understand what you're saying, but I
Okay.
think if they go this route, they're going to use the sovereign immunity with the state of Florida basically saying that you can't hold them to this contract.
And if that's the case, then why don't they then join the Big Ten or the SEC like today?
I think because the Big Ten and the SEC would get too much legal crap for inducement, which is why I think you would need that year or two honeymoon period to make it all look above board.
But it didn't. The same argument was to be had about the Pac-12 and schools they didn't want to get into the legal entanglements and everything about the schools killing the conference, and yet they did that anyway.
But their contract ends in 24 versus a contract that ends in 36.
The PR hit doesn't go away.
So
the PR hit doesn't go away. But.
I mean, once that contract ends, there's really nothing holding them in. I mean, they have their little exit fees and whatnot, but there's nothing else that could be held against them litigation wise legally in terms of leaving. There's just whatever fees are involved with leaving.
Let's get to a few comments over here. We got a lot of activity. First of all, I wanted to put this up there. The article title is 4 Weeks in August, how North Carolina State went from ACC expansion skeptic to voting to allow it. And that's in the News and Observer, if you're interested in tracking it down. Let's see here. So Conundrum says quid pro quo, very interesting. There's a trade of services in a quid pro quo. We're saying that they would try to avoid that if possible, right?
Well, I think he's talking about North Carolina State's quid pro quo.
Okay.
It's
for them voting,
to change their vote.
Yeah.
Right, to change their vote, they were promised AAU, or it was inferred that they were promised AAU.
Okay. We'll get to this. We'll get to your pick later, Cougar Tracks. By the way, Cougar Tracks, thanks for being here today. We appreciate it. Let's see. BR says ACC is targeting West Virginia and TCU now, and he's got a laugh emoji next to that, a crying laugh emoji. The funny thing about that is that you could have put any two schools in there, and people are going to not pay it much mind, because right now, why would anybody join on its knees conference and leave one that, frankly, with the 4 new Pac-12 schools, is going to be a pretty dang good conference for the next 4 or 5 years. I don't know why they would do that. Do you guys want to answer that at all?
I mean, this is about a decade too late.
Yeah.
It could have happened a decade ago for sure. West
Right.
Virginia was just dying to get into the ACC for the longest time, but not today. That's changed over the last year, 2 years. And so the ACC is in 4th position. I think we're all aware of that.
Right. And I think the ACC knows that, Philip, but I think that they're putting this out there just to be like, hey, we're a real conference too with expansion candidates. And these are our expansion candidates.
Yeah, saying that they're in the game.
Right.
They're in the game.
Yeah.
And it could be letting other folks know.
The Pac-2 is targeting Ohio State too.
I know. We're a real conference also.
They also want Oklahoma State. They want all the OSUs.
Sure, sounds good. Conundrum says NC State won't qualify for Ivy League ACC. What do you have to say about that? Immaculate?
I don't think they're staying there anyway. They're going to the SEC.
Yeah.
North Carolina State's going to the SEC.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was talking about the interesting choice of words that Jim used when he kind of brought this out. To whomever he talked to when they were saying they want to be an Ivy-like league.
Right.
I agree. I actually think before they come out with any big news about their future, they're going to paint a very bleak picture to try and get some of these state schools to all leave.
Right.
And then lo and behold, Notre Dame, Stanford, and Duke are going to come out with some announcements like, hey, we got these coming in. So I think they need to get some of these state schools to leave. So yeah, they don't qualify.
I see NC State going to the Big 12. It just seemed like a natural fit to the Big 12. I don't think they're not a big enough brand for the SEC or the Big 10. I see them fitting right in with the Big 12. I think that's going to be one of the 4 expansion, not only targets, but adds to the Big 12 over 2 years in the next year.
So you don't put much weight in the Board of Governors statement that's just come out?
I mean,
what?
Yeah, like why don't you refresh us on that?
Yeah, what is that? Tell us what that means.
This came out a little while ago, and it's since come out even more so that the North Carolina Board of Governors for the North Carolina University system, if you know how it's worked, each school that's in that system has their own board of trustees, and they all work independently. They do their own thing. That's kind of who was all involved with UNC and NC State kind of splitting. The Board of Governors is over all that. They appoint the people who are on the Board of Trustees, and they have since come out saying that any school that's going to, let me get this right, transfer, join another conference, or leave an existing conference has to come to the board and show them their whole plan, all their numbers,
right,
everything, and basically, get the approval of the board. So they've come in and pretty much said that UNC, wouldn't be able to leave NC State in a worse situation. They're trying to stop calimony from happening in North Carolina. So when I see that, I used to think North Carolina State maybe to the Big 12. It's a little bit harder to achieve right now at this point now because of this. I could see maybe the SEC and the Big both getting one or the other, or both of them going together somewhere. But
just that brings back memories of the state of Oklahoma, state of Washington,
Sure.
The state of California. In every state that has 2 split teams that are leaving a conference has made the same squawk.
But it's not. It's
zero.
not the same situation, though. I mean, that was like legislatures saying
when
that
you're talking,
this is the actual Board of
billions
Governors.
dollars for North Carolina going to the Big 10. It is going to end up like that. It is that substantial. And the media revenue payouts from staying in the ACC to going to the Big 10 are that substantial. And NC State ain't piggybacking with them. That's
No. I agree with you there.
It's not happening. So
I don't think anyone wants both schools, including the SEC. So that's what I'm saying. There's some kind of a split, and you could be right. And maybe the Board of Governors backs down. That's entirely possible.
Under political pressure and $750 million for a decade. Yeah,
right.
I could see that.
I think right now they're trying to get the top situation, which is like North Carolina to the Big 10 and NC State to the SEC. But
of course they are.
Over time, you could be right. Maybe that changes.
Like
NC State in the Big 12.
Yeah,
I just see it. It's like it's pretty clear. I mean,
I think
it's a good get.
It would
fit.
I think Moen's initial thought about them going to the SEC, is there a possibility that could happen? Absolutely, it could. We're not saying it's not going to happen at all, but the likelihood, I think, is sliding every day. It's getting a little bit worse for the schools that don't have a destination for an SEC or Big 10 to have other options. So if they're not planning now, they're going to get caught flat-footed. Right.
But I think if North Carolina State was a no before, they were a no because they knew they had some place to land.
Yeah, that could be AAU though, right? It doesn't necessarily
I think,
need to be a conference.
Right, but I think North Carolina let them know that they were going to the Big 10, and North Carolina State has a pretty good idea that the SEC needs to expand its footprint. They need to get into North Carolina. So they've got to have one of those schools. They need to get into Virginia, so they got to have one of those Virginia schools. So, yeah, I do see it that the Board of Governors have put it out there that, hey, both of them have to end up in the best situation possible. And right now I see the best situation possible as being a split between the SEC and the Big 10.
We're going to have to leave that there. Those are great comments and a great section to go through that everybody had their opinion listened to. Let's go through some more comments from people who are watching. PS Doff is here, but he's late. Good to see you, PS Doff. Greg Flugar says reporting FSU at 80% chance to the SEC. I've always thought that's where they were going to end up. Let's see here. Hall of Fame college football, Jason. Watkins says that buyout is assuming that ESPN and the conference want to deal with legal entanglements. Oklahoma and Texas aren't paying near what they were supposed to pay. Neither would FSU.
Right.
The whole Big 12 thing really threw up a lot, especially when the Big 12 lawyers said that they didn't think the grant of rights would hold up. Like, whoa, wait, what? That goes against what every conference has ever said about their own grant of rights. So
Yeah.
it makes you kind of wonder if anyone else is maybe talking a bit much about the power of their grant of rights. We just don't know. But it was an interesting acknowledgement from them.
We had Tony Lawson's in the house for $2. Thank you, Tony.
Tough
He's a
Tony.
gopher. He's a gopher. It's okay. They got a tough weekend coming.
He says, who hates Iowa? That's one of those parenthetical questions. I don't think you're supposed to answer that, but that's great, Tony. Thank you so much for being one of our valued members. We really appreciate you coming back each week and each show. It means a ton to us, and we want you to know that. Let's see here. Where did I leave off? So I left off with the buyout for FSU. We just talked about that. Eugene is one of our paying members. He says, but I think OSU and WSU would take the ACC if they had a chance. I think they'd take the ACC before they go to the Mountain West.
Oh, definitely.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. Jason says the Ivy League. When academics come up, the writing is on the wall.
He's right about that. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
Right on the point. We talked about that last
is.
week. Yeah. Whenever academics start getting thrown around, every academic conversation when it rises, the money falls too.
That's true. Absolutely true. Bo Stacker, thanks for being here, Bo. Appreciate you showing up and being a return visitor. We really appreciate that. Join the family. He says, as long as Pitt and VPI lands in the Big 12, I'll be happy. I hope Virginia Tech and Pitt both go to the Big 12.
Oh, they would be amazing ads with NC State. Throw in Miami too.
Oh, Miami, that's dreaming, I think. Maybe.
Hey,
maybe.
Miami dreaming, guys.
I just don't think after all this that we can assume that the SEC wants to go past 20 teams. They barely made it 16.
It would be tough. It would be tough for them to go past 20. I think if they get to 20, and that's probably it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think their number is 20.
Okay. Were you going to say something? You?
Yeah, just really the Big 12 getting brands like that would be a huge swing, right?
Right.
And if the Big 10 and the SEC are only going to 20, there's going to be some good brands out there.
Absolutely.
And I just have a hard time believing the academic thing and making this academic Ivy League. That's all great in theory and stuff, but like once you actually see the media rights money you're going to get and how low it's going to be, you're going to be jumping off like a rat off a ship. So this is a Pac-12 situation again. We did discuss it last week, but like bears repeating, really. And so the Big 12 and your mark in a really good position, I think, over the next year or two to really take advantage, be aggressive with some of these brands.
Let's get a couple more comments in here. P.S. Doff says, blame Iowa. Man, it's Hate Iowa Day. Jeez.
I love it.
Tony Lawson says, conundrum. No one is supposed to hear that. Roll the dice.
Snake eyes.
Snake eyes. Thank you. And there was one other one that said, conundrum. I gambled away my $2. I love that. That's a great comment. One last question here for PS Doff. What unexpected ad could the Big 12 get? Meaning teams expected to go SEC and big.
It's Miami, guys.
Question.
It's Miami.
I think it's the same thing.
Miami.
It's not mine. It'd be Virginia Tech. In that case, I think it would be Virginia Tech.
Moan, do you think Miami is going to the Big 10 or the SEC?
I think if the SEC takes Florida State, they're not taking Miami.
Would the Big go after Miami in that case?
Yeah, and in that instance, the Big would absolutely take Miami.
We got a big problem there with that stadium issue, man. That gets. I think that Miami is so close, but that the whole stadium fell through with their big funder getting looked into by the SEC. I gotta say, it's a little questionable. I mean, it's obviously there's great things about Miami, but if they can't get that stadium situation fixed up, I don't know if it's big worthy.
Hey, UCLA is big worthy, and they've got a huge stadium issue.
That was USC that pulled them. I mean, if Notre Dame says you bring in Miami and we come, okay, well, all right, come on in.
Isn't
if
that
it's
the contention though, that Notre Dame does want Miami in? Isn't that what we've been talking about for a
we
while?
don't know if Notre Dame's ready to say yes to the Big Ten, though. That's why we're looking at North Carolina and Virginia for now.
Okay. All right.
I'd say North Carolina and Miami before I would put Virginia in there, but that's just me.
I think North Carolina says we're not coming unless we come with Virginia.
What
And
about
then
what about
Big Ten's like, okay.
what about Clemson?
Clemson for the Big 12?
Just Clemson to anybody?
I think they're going SEC. I think if
Okay.
Florida State's going
Okay.
SEC,
Probably
I think
SEC.
Clemson is
But we've
SEC.
had that talk. We've said, there is a small chance that they're going to look at that and say, we don't need two schools in South Carolina, and Clemson's kind of starting to fall off.
Talk about hanging chads. You have these schools that 6 months ago, everybody just assumed they were going to be throw-ins to these bigger conferences. We were talking 24 teams, 25 team super conferences.
Mhm.
Everybody was going to have a seat on the bus.
Mhm.
Jump ahead 5 months, and that bus is getting smaller and smaller and less talked about. So I wouldn't guarantee anybody outside of North Carolina and Florida State. I wouldn't guarantee anybody.
Those would be the two I would guarantee.
Yeah. If
North
I had
Carolina
to bet
to the Big and Florida State to the SEC.
If you're betting on Clemson, it's SEC. But if you're looking at just the odds, it's not 100% to the SEC. I would say that there's some small chance to the Big 12 because there's no one fighting for Clemson. So maybe Florida State, but that's it.
So you put us in your eyes. You've experienced this for the last year. The trauma, the pain, the anxiety, the not being able to sleep at night.
Just the fights, right? The fights, like with other fan bases, other conferences, it's just drama. Yeah, that's how it is. And I think that the ACC folks are experiencing that, and they're going to experience it for the time being until things break. But this is just a slow fracture, right? Clemson's going to end up in one of the big two, right? The SEC or the Big Ten for sure.
Probably.
They're shoe-in. North Carolina's a shoe-in. Florida State is. The Florida State thing is really interesting because I think that they have an opportunity stepping into the Big Ten to become an absolute powerhouse. I'm serious about that. Having a foothold in Florida, being the only Big Ten team down there in Florida, I just think that it could be absolute gold. And if they go to the SEC, there's another team. I don't know why you'd make that move if you had an opportunity to go to both. Going to the Big Ten seems to me like the best opportunity for them. I cannot believe they want to go to the SEC. Shocks me.
But let me posit this to you. If they go the sovereign immunity route, they need the legislatures in Florida to be on their side. Those people are going to want them in the SEC, not in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I still think it's the SEC. There's just too much regionality there. They don't want. Imagine all their games are road games. Everybody in Florida, they'd be doing nothing but traveling over the Midwest and the Upper East, Northeast, far west. Yeah. Why would you, if you're a booster, you want to be playing on the biggest stage? Well, the SEC, nobody can say the SEC doesn't have the biggest stage. So I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. Time will tell. But
difference of views. I understand.
Probably a lot of their boosters and fans want the SEC. I would say a lot of the academia and people in the administration probably want Big Ten.
Probably.
So your juxtaposition of that, who wins out on that. If the SEC and ESPN do whatever they did with Texas and Oklahoma to try and make that work, it's probably a big money difference for Florida State too in terms of the cost of getting out.
Right.
Can you guys see Florida State winning an SEC championship within the next 20 years if they get in?
Sure.
Yes.
I could see it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
How about in the Big Ten? Could you see them winning a national?
Yep.
That would be very hard. I think it would be harder.
I think they can. I
think it's harder. The travel requirements are going to be much steeper, and their home field advantage is dominant. But then they have to go to Penn State. They have to go up to Michigan. Hell, they have to drive all the way over to Washington.
I think you'd have pods at that time, regional pods, right, to make it a little bit more digestible, just like with USC and UCLA.
I just think the smarter move is the SEC.
Yeah.
Everybody can hop in their car and drive to the game.
I mean, although I don't know, there's some argument that I've heard that Florida State's actually their graduates kind of spread out a bit more.
Right.
I don't know if that's true or not. Just some things that Florida State fans have said, but I think that probably most of them are down there in the South, right?
Let's get to this comment or question from Tony Lawson, who says, does the panel have any thoughts on ESPN's profits being down? I was going to talk about this next week. I'm trying to get Bob Thompson in the house. I think next week is not going to work, but the week after I might have Bob Thompson in. Obviously, this would be one of the things we talk about, but it's a topic and we got some time. Does the panel have any thoughts on ESPN's profits being down 20% in the first 9 months of 2023 compared to 2022? My thoughts are, I think it's a big deal. Obviously, you've seen all the bloodletting that ESPN has been doing, and Disney. Well, let's just jump back to the owner. Disney's been just hemorrhaging money all around, but ESPN does make money for them. So if they sold it, they would now be leading a company that nobody makes money, and I just find it hard idea to do that. But I think the money makes a big difference. I think it does affect operations, and it obviously has affected expansion opportunities. They could have gotten the Pac-12 for pennies on the dollar, just to stay out of the Big 12. Schools would have taken pennies on the dollar, and yet ESPN didn't want any part of it. So,
does it? I've got a question for the panel here. I've heard this, I've seen this a lot, but I haven't seen this dissected. Like being on the finance side, I want more information. Maybe you have it. Is this a revenue problem? Is this an expense problem?
That's what I was just gonna say. I was like, what investments have they made recently? That would take your profits down immediately.
You have the link to the article. You want me to give it to you again?
You know, yeah. You know what? If we can, I'm just kind of curious about the driver. If it's a revenue problem,
I'm ignorant with the money stuff. I'm ignorant with the money stuff, though. You would have to read it with your eye, right? Yeah. So I'll send you the link, and then you read it, and then next week I'd love to do a show on it.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Anything else, you guys?
Yeah, I was going to say they laid off 900 people. They laid off 900 people, and then they hired one guy for 35 million. So
right. That's true.
Figure out why they're losing money.
Math. Yeah, I'm interested to see what dude has to come up with that. That's exactly what I was thinking. And
if I had to guess, it'd be more on the revenue side. They're actually seeing some revenue decline or flat revenue. And
right.
Then, with all the new costs and stuff because of inflation, that's kind of ballooning. And that's what a lot of businesses are saying right now. So
right.
that wouldn't necessarily be surprising. But yeah, the costs are going to have to do staff reductions like they're doing. So I'll dive into it more. We'll talk about it next week.
Would the lack of having Big Ten content, you think, maybe affect some of the ads that they're getting? Because they've narrowed down now, because 2022 they had Big Ten. Now they don't. I'm not trying to be like, oh, Big Ten power, but that's something that's missing in between these 2 years, and that's what I'm looking at.
I think it's a leadership problem. They made some tactical decisions in the last decade that really put them behind the 8 ball. I'm sorry. They buried themselves in some business decisions that the entire company is now paying for now. They overhired and overpaid talent. They misappropriated their talent across their football and baseball and basketball and all that stuff. They just did not do a good job in the last decade of managing what they had, which was making a lot of money. Obviously, the last 2 years has been tough for a lot of companies, though, not just for Disney, ESPN.
Okay, I feel like ESPN's brand's kind of just taking it.
It
doesn't have the shine that it used to.
Yeah.
Back 20 years ago, ESPN was everything. If you were on ESPN, and now it's just another channel, right?
Yep.
It's like CBS or Fox, and Fox has really made strides in college football, right?
Yep.
Like getting big games over the last 10 years. And so, yeah, I'm sure this is coming from a lot of different angles for ESPN here, their financial struggles.
Moen?
Yeah, you're right. It used to be ESPN, used to be the flagship when it came to sports content. And it's really not anymore. They've let people into the marketplace.
That's right.
They've allowed competition to come in. They used to have a stranglehold on it.
Yep.
They don't have a stranglehold on it anymore.
And that was a tactical decision at Fox as well. We can't say it's all ESPN.
And NBC.
If they decided to double down and buy in, because they know college sports, besides the NFL, college football is the brand in today's television. It carries throughout the season. There's off week or off season camps now they're covering people's recruiting. So it's becoming more of a 24/7 type thing, college football is, and it carries a big stick. So
who hates this, guys? the SEC.
Yeah, that's true too.
Seriously,
Yeah.
if ESPN's profits are down and stuff, the opportunity to lift the brand more and more will
Right.
be tighter and tighter because the budget and wallet. So I mean, this is an issue for the SEC.
That's where like an Apple could come in, or someone else could come in. Maybe CBS wants to go back to having 2 games. They come back in and buy some SEC content to play for their second game of the day. So, but you're right, though.
Wow.
They might have to look at this and say, okay, we may not just want to stick with only ESPN.
So they had to carve off some of that ESPN maybe.
Well, I mean, that's like what Fox is doing with the Big Ten. You know, in a way, is you become kind of the head person in charge of who's getting that content. So
this is going to be fascinating to bring up with Bob Thompson. So I'm going to do everything I can to get him in the building so we can talk about this stuff. He told me he wanted me to hold off a little bit before bringing him on again because he's waiting for some more news that he's heard about the Pac-2. He's waiting for some of that to come to fruition before we talk again. So we'll have to see. He knows that I asked him about this article specifically on Twitter. He replied to me. So he knows we're thinking about it. Just maybe a little early before we bring him in. Anyway, let's get a couple more comments in here. Cougar Track says if available, the Big 12 should take Miami. We all agree. The Conundrum says Miami Stadium is Northwestern Stadium. Since they tore down the Orange Bowl instead of just retrofitting that, it's been a disaster. Let's see here. Timothy Green says another great show. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. And West Virginia is being represented. We're here for you. And then one more from Bo Stacker. He says Yormark's new dream scenario would be Pitt, VPI, NC State, and Miami.
Oh gosh,
that's a pretty good dream right there. Give that. If you get that, that's pretty amazing.
And let's be very clear. It's Yormark's dream to get all 4 of them, not one of them, Ute. Not one, all 4.
Little shade.
Yes, let's just keep it at that. You can tell your brethren when you said you were wanted, it was as a package, not as an individual. All right. Let's go to the next one. Our next topic is not on this page. The next topic is Michigan.
Oh, there we go.
Michigan sign stealing scandal. Let me see. Do I have a link on this? I can't remember if I had a link. I do. I have a link, and this is all Moen's. So, Moen, I'm going to take this sign off so you can have the whole screen.
Oh my gosh.
So
click on the picture, please. Why
don't you explain to everybody what we're looking at here and why it's such a big deal? Because I have an argument to make that says, why is this like stealing signs in baseball? That nothing happened to those guys either.
Right. Well, nothing happened to those guys because the MLB doesn't have a spine. The Astros should absolutely have had the title stripped from them.
I agree with you.
Jim Harbaugh actually released a statement, and I have it right here.
I'm a cheat and a liar. And when I'm not kissing babies, I'm stealing their lollipops.
He steals lollipops from babies. That's the kind of person that Jim Harbaugh is. He is the consummate stand out front and tell you what a great guy he is. And behind, he's doing all kinds of underhand things, from hiring a recruit's high school coach to giving his dad, giving another recruit's father a job on the staff. And here he has a guy that he has hired to basically go out and steal signs for him to get any competitive advantage whatsoever that he needs. The fact is that even if Harbaugh wins a national championship this year, you're going to always have it underneath a cloud because of this asshole that you hired to go steal signs from people. I mean, you have the number. You could kick the crap out of all these teams without stealing signs. You don't need to do it. But according to the Big Ten, they've got evidence dating back to 2021 that he's been doing this for 2 years now. And apparently they've got strong enough evidence to where Michigan State tried to pull out of the game this weekend, where Michigan State was just like, hey, we're not going to play. You got a call it a forfeit. And, we win because these guys were somehow stealing signs that Michigan State, had just come up with that week. So it's absolutely unbelievable. Jim Harbaugh is a liar, a cheater, a scumbag, a gutless cheat.
Not only are you a cheat,
Yeah, that gutless cheat as well.
Gotta love the
Three
sting
ways to
drop.
make a living in this business. Be first, be smarter, or cheat.
That's right. Be first, be smarter, or cheat. Guess which one Jim Harbaugh did?
Can we say this though? Like, trying to ask for a forfeiture is probably the best way Michigan State could get a win.
It's true.
I'm not saying it's like there
absolutely
isn't
true.
some bad
And they would have
stuff
kicked
involved.
they would have
But-
kicked the crap out of Michigan State. There was no reason to steal signals.
No, I agree. I'm not trying to defend them. I'm just saying at the same time, though, a little, Michigan State, might have seen an opportunity to get one on Michigan by saying we want a forfeiture and a win and all that.
Right,
when,
right.
you
No,
know,
I don't disagree with you there. I don't disagree with you there at all. But they would have kicked. They could kick the crap out of most. Like the only teams that would have given them trouble in the Big Ten would have been Ohio State and Penn State. Let's be honest. Over the last 2 years that they've been doing this, the only two teams that would have been credible threats to them would have been Ohio State and Penn State.
Mm-hmm. I think this comes down to one of these situations where, first off, remember, it's the NCAA doing the investigation. So we'll see what they're able to put together. They don't have subpoena power. They don't have the ability to compel a company to share records. These looks like the lawyers for these guys got them going real quick to delete and destroy very quickly. So, well, it's one of those situations where you look and be like, yeah, there's probably some shady stuff here and we know it. It comes down to what can they prove it. I think you said before that there's probably going to be a settlement because what they can prove, I think everyone's going to want to just put this on the record because Michigan doesn't want this to persist. This is terrible PR.
They haven't had a great PR year, and yet they're winning, and they're still in the top 5. So
right, they're number 2. They're a great
Yeah.
team. It's not taking anything away from the kids on the team. They're a great, talented team. This is bullshit that their coaches have got them into.
Right.
And it's
it is an
completely
advantage
unnecessary.
too. I mean, like it seriously is a big advantage. I mean, it's pathetic though. This is pathetic.
it's an advantage, but it's an advantage you don't even need to do. I mean, I could understand stealing.
I guess like I'll question like, do they need to do that? You think that they're like good enough, but really like, if they're having to do this, how many games would they have lost if they hadn't cheated?
For folks who are
They made
listening
the
and
playoff
wondering,
if they had cheated, guys.
some people may not realize what we're actually talking about here. It's not that they just stole signs because you can actually do that. What they did was they sent out someone in advance to watch the games of other teams and to steal at their games. I guess the rules are that you're not supposed to do it. They're trying to say that there were some electronic measures used to capture communications, which is
yes.
And and that's where the whole military thing. I was like, he's a military guy, that he would know how to do this. But the problem is, okay, now you have to find a way to prove that. You've got to get the smoking gun. You've got to get the equipment that he had, or the files that were captured, or whatever it is. And that's where I have my question is, the NCAA probably can't make this happen. So we're going to sit there and see this whole thing and be like, yeah, they're dirty, but I don't know how the NCAA actually proves this.
I think the Big Ten Conference is probably going to step in. I mean, the Big Ten actually approached Michigan State with the evidence from the NCAA.
Okay.
So I think as a conference, the Big Ten can obviously put more pressure on than the NCAA can. But I would guess that regardless of what happens, this is Jim Harbaugh's last year at Michigan. I'd imagine he's going to do the old Pete Carroll routine where he's going to soft shoe out the door. And
let's jump on that. Let's jump to the next mini topic related to this, and that is Lincoln Riley and Jim Harbaugh. I said in the summer, I said I could easily see Jim Harbaugh leaving, and last year I thought after the Utah dismantled USC, and you had the whole fingernails words and stuff with Williams, that they might be a one and done this year, and Lincoln Riley goes to the NFL too. What do you guys think about those two topics?
I definitely think Lincoln Riley is going to go. I think that's been his thing ever since he decided to leave Oklahoma to go to USC. Is he wanted to be in a big market, show that he could handle it there, make connections, whatever. Fox is located there in LA. But I would have said no to Harbaugh. He's a company man. But after this, this might be the thing that pushes him over the edge to go.
Sorry to backtrack a little bit, but more like, do we have? Do folks think that this guy on the staff was actually going to like practices somehow and getting intel from practices? Like, if
He
he's
was
hacking
going.
phone-
He was
he's
going to
hacking-
live games.
He's going to live games. I know that, but like, did it go to the extent where he was somehow getting in and getting information at like opposing practices? I mean, like, how far does this go? Do we know at all?
I don't know. I just heard games, but I don't know anything about
Because
that
All,
direction.
all we have are the sources that have been released so far. Was that he or an associate attended a live game, captured signals electronically, and then brought that back to, allegedly, we should say this is all allegedly brought this back to the coaching staff, and the coaching staff used that as an advantage. I'm sure everybody's going out there poring over film right now. Greg had mentioned it yesterday on his show. It's incredible to see. You could go watch somebody make an audible and Michigan immediately go into
Right.
the right package for that.
Yes. Yeah.
So
my thought is like there needs to be a lot more investigation, because like, say that you're playing in Michigan, you're warming up before the game, like, and you're with your team and it's supposed to be a private moment and everything. I mean, it seems like there's a lot more to this, honestly. Like, if you wanted to get a lot more intel, and if this guy has a military strategic background, who knows how deep this goes.
Right. There's a really great article on USA Today that I recommend everybody go read. I put it on my Twitter profile, that talks about kind of how Jim Harbaugh has always existed in the shades of gray.
Right.
Some of the not quite illegal, but really unethical things he's done since he became a coach at Michigan. Very interesting read.
Before we move along here, and I'll let you say your piece here in just a second, Immaculate. First, I wanted to welcome to the stage Jason Watkins, Hall of Fame college football. Welcome for being here, Jason. I guess you want to continue. You want to continue picking games with us. We haven't done the greatest job, so you're welcome to be here for that. But
on the list. But
before we move on, I just wanted to thank everybody who's watching right now. We're over 50 people live on YouTube, and we're over 20 live on, well, last time I checked, we were over 20 live on Twitter. Thank you so much for following us, you guys, and being here. Please subscribe to both Twitter and to YouTube channels, and then make sure you turn on your notifications to join the show so that you guys know when our shows are actually happening. Those notifications are big. Most people don't even know you can turn on notifications in Twitter. So I would just recommend everybody do that. You'll get all of our latest posts. And then also please follow all of our guests that we have come. We have guests every show, it seems like nowadays. So make sure you're following them as well. If you want your comment to be read guaranteed, it'll probably at this point have to be a super chat. We've interacted really well, almost 300 messages to this point. But moving forward, we're probably going to have it as a super chat. Or if there's none of those, I will defer to the paid members. All right. Jason, you wanted to say something about Michigan.
Oh, well, a few things. I think that mostly I don't understand the whole signal stealing stuff. I mean, that stuff's been going on forever. Now, as far as him doing it electronically or whatever, if that's what, first off, I don't understand if they caught him at Iowa doing that, what the hell you need that for? They'd score 10 points a game. You know what I mean? They score 10 freaking points a game.
Yeah.
So I don't understand what the problem is there. In the end, I mean, I don't see it as big of a deal as a lot of people do. I think it's the NCAA is trying to kind of hold on to their whatever bit of power it is that they think they have, you know, particularly when it comes to football. And in the end, I don't know that it's a huge deal, but I think that he's definitely got a big target on his back at this point. And, you know, I would just ask Mo, and don't you wish that Ryan Day was quite so clever?
No, I'd rather have a coach that's not a scumbag. But that's just me.
I knew I was going to get that kind of answer from you. I was hoping.
And like I said,
get that.
I'm not making any excuses for them beating Ohio State the last two times. They outplayed Ohio State.
Yeah.
Ohio State didn't play worth a shit in those games. But come on, you know people are looking at your program little common sense. Don't make it easy for them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and what is the deal with this rule? I guess that would be a question I have. Is that even a rule? Because I know they
It's
were
a
talking
rule.
about
It's a
they were
rule.
talking
You
about that
can't-
with Oklahoma stealing them during the game. That they know
during
they're
the game
fine.
is okay. You can do it during the game. You can't
But
send somebody to a
as
live
far
game.
as like going ahead and scouting, you're
Right.
not supposed to have a scouting
Right.
group.
Right.
I get that part. Yeah.
Because you have to notify the team that you're going to have. It's what ultimately what we need to do is just get to the audio equipment in the helmets, just like they do in the NFL, and get away from all
Well,
these
they already
hand
do
signals
for
and
the
everything
quarterbacks.
else.
They already do for the quarterbacks.
Do they?
Yep.
I don't believe they do.
I
They
don't
do.
think they
The
do
offensive
either.
coordinators and the quarterbacks talk for like 15 seconds.
I haven't heard that at all.
Let me
Yeah,
double
that's
check
news.
it.
That's news
Let
to me.
Let me double check it. Keep going.
Harbaugh will find
Sorry.
a way to cheat anyway and
Yeah.
get into that
Chrome,
helmet.
Cassie for Chrome saying if the NCAA is involved, it's a big deal. I don't agree with that. I think that they're grasping for as much as they can possibly. I mean, they pick their battle so oddly with the NCAA. Look at the whole deal with the receiver from Carolina and stuff, and
I think it's a
none of
bigger
it.
deal if
and
the Big Ten got involved. If the actual conference got involved, like Moen was saying, I'm telling you, that's a big deal. If they're
Yeah,
getting
and
involved.
it
All
sounds
right.
like they've been watching it for a while. But my thing with the NCAA is that I could care less about the NCAA. I would rather see the Big Ten and these other conferences kind of do their thing, and break away from it, because at this point they're nothing but a nuisance, and they don't, and none of the punishments or whatever it is are handed out equally for the same stuff, And I mean, especially when it comes to the portal and all that other stuff, they act like they're in it to. For the quote student athlete, and they're not. They're absolutely not in it for the student athlete. I don't want to hear that crap.
How about
really quick, a fact rewind. I got that wrong. I thought the offensive coordinators had their mics with quarterbacks. That's absolutely not true. There's been several people that have corrected me, and I even went in and looked it up so that I was making sure I was getting
They might as
facts
well
from
do that,
multiple
though. That's what
sources.
they should do. But
I don't know
think
why they don't. Them and
that's
linebackers,
stupid.
I think, should get it.
The reason I've heard is because I think it'll be too much of a financial burden on smaller schools.
which will, when the autonomous conferences get their own governments, this will probably be something that they add just for FBS.
How many close
Okay.
games did Michigan win last year? Does
A
anybody
few.
recall? How about
The
They-
Illinois
Rush-
game, I think, was the closest one.
Yeah.
because
It wasn't
Michigan's
just
a
one.
college football playoff invite, right? And they lost
Right.
to TCU. But you're talking about a team that cheated. Like we're talking about like small margins. Like this to me, this is a huge deal. I mean, if they had busted the breaking the rules, it goes back a year or two. Like you should take away wins, guys. Seriously, and especially like close games. Like that's going to make a difference between a close victory or not.
And them going to a playoff.
He brings up
Why
a
would they
really
go to
good
a
point.
playoff this year?
This is really cheap stuff, guys. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
it ticks me
No.
off honestly because like
You
it's
just-
so hard to win anyway, and they're taking signals illegally.
You
Like,
just brought up a really good point, though, man. You brought up TCU. Michigan all year long was doing this well, and then I kind of unexplained. They just get blown out by TCU. Now, against all the teams you play in the regular season, you know who you're going to play. You could go in advance
Right.
and look
But
and see.
But you had that
TCU,
long
you wouldn't
stretch.
know.
You had that long stretch of how would they know? He couldn't go to a game in advance.
no
like
game.
Right. There's no game.
TCU was their first game.
Right. Exactly.
So there was no.
This really irks, guys. It
Oh,
really does.
man, I hadn't even
I think
thought
should take
about that angle.
wins away. Seriously, I mean,
Oof.
Man,
Michigan's
we
not
got
the Big Ten champion. Like here, they made the playoff. Like we're talking about
Well,
playoff money.
Didn't they
Made the
play
playoff.
Iowa one year? Wouldn't that make Iowa the Big Ten champion that year? Immaculate.
I mean,
it's
we
so
would
tough
probably would
to
have
go
found a
back
way to
and
lose it,
take.
even if we couldn't lose it.
I think this year is where they could have the most effect. They make him ineligible for this year.
Oh gosh! Just
I think
imagine that. The
That
number
would
two
that would
organization
anything in the past.
banning them
Nobody's
from
going to care
postseason?
about. Nobody cares about vacated
Look,
wins.
Oh my
Nobody cares
God.
about USC's vacated wins.
Look,
Nobody
we
cares
pointed
about
to the Big
Nobody
Ten
cares.
because the Michigan is powerful in the Big Ten, and for the Big Ten to get involved with this, that means there's a lot of other powers in the Big Ten that are looking into this. But the one thing that they won't do is is set themselves up to where their top team that beats Ohio State and Penn State can't go on. And if you pull this now, you're going to motivate that Michigan team to crush both of them. So I have
don't
my
know.
doubts in terms of them actually making them not being able to go this year.
Conundrum's got this quote. Is this a funny quote or is this real?
No, this is from his LinkedIn. This was
He
on
actually,
the guy's LinkedIn
before he deleted it,
before he
uh,
deleted
yeah,
everything.
he got
this
rid
was
of
on
all
that.
of his social media online. This guy, he says, I focus on using my experience. Jason, this has to rankle you.
Oh, yeah.
I focus on using my experience to employ Marine Corps philosophies. Don't throw that crap around. I know that Jason, anyway, and tactics into the sport of football regarding strategies and staffing, recruiting, scouting, intelligence, planning, and more. So, Jason, what do you think
Hey,
about
listen,
this?
as a veteran, there's a lot of full of shit veterans. Okay, so I'm not gonna. I don't know. I mean, I get it. Whatever. Marine Corps tactics. I don't. Whatever. He found a way to get paid. Good for him. You know what I mean? Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it kind
I
of
love
comes
it.
off that way a little bit, like
Yeah. I
Marine
found a
Corps
way to get. I
itself.
found a way to be a Marine working for Michigan. Good for me.
It's a little
You know what I mean?
wizardry. Like, oh, really? Okay, we believe you.
Yeah.
All right.
Scouting intelligence.
One more time, I want to bring this up. We didn't really talk about it. I don't know. I think we got distracted. But this new uniform for Iowa. Okay.
Mhm.
I want to make sure that we're all on track. Does
Hell yeah.
everybody like this uniform?
I like it.
Aren't they just stealing from the Steelers?
Yeah, that's
But
why
that's
I
what
hate it.
we did that so long ago. That's not a good talking point. That's exactly what I would do. We stole that from the Steelers, and
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so it is, but it is now their colors as well. It's long past, and this is something as Conundrum in chat does not like it. For the people who are very traditional look for Iowa, they do not like this. But for
Okay.
people who want to kind of see the school take on the new era and the new way of things in recruits, we love this. I personally love it, but I get how some of the staunch traditionalists do not like it.
Anybody else have an opinion?
I love it, actually. It's sleek. You
Yeah,
guys
I
might
think
actually
it's-
score some points with this on Friday.
If this might be what's needed, because
I mean, it'll fly. That's the best Iowa I've ever seen uni out of.
I like their classic all blacks, but I think that this is pretty clean uniform for sure.
Moen, what do you think?
It reminds me of all things Pittsburgh, and I hate all things Pittsburgh, so I don't like it.
It's definitely a Pittsburgh thing.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I don't have an opinion. I think it does look clean. It's a very clean look, but I think the fact that they blatantly steal from Pittsburgh, I just have issues with that. So
Stole long, like past tense.
steal, stole, whatever. You
It was
gave
a-
me
it was
the
a-
link
that was
to
a
show
common
to everybody.
thing. It was a
This is
common
the
thing
link
in the
you told me
time.
to use to show everybody this uniform. So
Yeah.
I'm only going off of the one you gave me. Anyway.
Oh, but the old school ones are definite ripoffs. This is different from what Pittsburgh does.
Right. Okay. Let's get to our games. All right. Let me bring up.
Yeah, while you're bringing those up, so Jason,
Yep.
I'm eating some Big Crow from last week, so I owe you some kudos here.
Some what?
Some crow squawk here, because I had everything on USC. It was a guaranteed thing, USC beating Notre Dame, and so my man, I owe you. Okay, so I'm eating that crow. Good call on that.
Man.
And I've learned my lesson about picking USC ever again.
Bro, they are in trouble. They are in trouble.
Mhm.
They're in
I
trouble.
agree.
All right. Let's see here. I didn't put this on a document. I should have, but I was too lazy. So we're just going to start from the top and work our way down. And we're going to start with Penn State, Ohio State. We'll let Moen take the floor. Tell us all why Ohio State's going to wipe the floor with Penn State.
I went 1-7 last week, so I'm going to pick opposite of what I think. So we're going
You
to
and
see how
George
this is gonna-
Costanza. You and
Yes.
George Costanza. Okay.
I'm going to take Penn State. I'm going to take
What?
Penn State.
What?
At 4.5?
At 4.5. I think Ohio State wins by a field goal.
Wow.
Okay. I mean, he did say he was
Okay.
voting opposite of what he thought. So
Yeah, I know, but is he doing that to throw the rest of us off?
I don't know.
Well, he has nothing to lose. He was 1-7 last week. Jason, you went 4-4, just so you know. You and I tied, and Ute actually. We all got 4-4, and then
Sweet.
Immaculate cheated and won 7-1. So
What?
Yeah, I know. He
Whoa!
cheated.
There's
He
got to
cheated.
be something weird there.
That's Iowans.
right.
We know how to gamble.
All right, Ute, who do you take? Ohio State, Penn State. Ohio State's laying 4.5.
Penn State.
Okay.
Penn State.
Jason.
Yeah, I guess I have Penn State too. If they don't win now, I don't want to hear anything else out of freaking Franklin and Penn State, because this is the year they should do it. That you finally have the comparable talent. You got a great defense. You should win this one, but they probably won't. But I'm going to pick them anyway.
So we've got a request here from Casting for Chrome, who says he thinks he went 8-0 last week. Casting, it's really hard. It's hard enough for Immaculate to keep track of just us 5 for your scores. But
Ooh, yeah, it'd be tough doing everybody.
If you'll keep track on your own, put them into a tweet with whatever your picks are, I don't mind talking about them next week.
No, yeah.
So if you want to do that and you want to participate that way, you keep track of your picks, send them to me after the show. That way they'll be locked in, and then we'll bring them up next week. In fact, that goes for anybody. I don't mind if we spend a half hour or an hour on this next week. If you want to participate, write down your picks, send them to me in a DM, and then we'll talk about them next week. I don't have a problem with that at all.
What if we were to make a posting thread on X and everyone could just post their picks?
Because I'm not tracking a mile long set of tweets.
No, I mean, if we get a mile long, that's pretty impressive.
I mean, if you got them all last week, DM me the picks before we do the show, and then I'll just use your picks.
But he doesn't know what games. We don't announce the games.
I'll let you know. Just DM me, and I'll let you know the games.
Good engagement.
All right. All I'm saying is, just I want you to be engaged. We're not going to keep track, and don't put them in one long tweet. Just DM them to me, and I can pull them up one at a time. Okay. All right. Let's see. Jason, did you say? Let's see. I'm trying to.
Yeah. I've got a Penn State.
Okay. And Immaculate, did you pick?
Did you pick?
No, I haven't yet.
You want me to pick before you?
Yes, please.
I'm going to Ohio State. It's at home. It's only 4.5. I am not actually all that impressed by Penn State so far.
Okay.
I think Allard has been oversold a little bit. I think their defense is very good, but this is Ohio State at home, and I'm going to go Ohio State.
Okay. Did you already pick?
Yeah, I was on Penn State. I think Penn State, this is like such a pinnacle game for that program to really take the next step. Yeah. It's the time. Like, I'm with you, Jason. Like, if it's going to ever happen, it's this game. I think Penn State wins a close one straight up. Sorry, Mom. It's going to be a battle. I just see Penn State. I think Penn State gets the playoff this year, and this is the one game they have to get there.
I take Penn State in the points. Keep it simple.
Nice. All right.
Let's go to Minnesota at Iowa, 3.5. And that's Iowa. That's to you, Immaculate.
Yeah, I figured I was going first. This is Iowa. Like, I don't even have to think about it. It's Minnesota's not even going to score.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Where's Greg at?
Yeah, where's Tough Tony?
He's
still here. Yeah, I think he's already going into the whiskey. The beer's gone.
He went to dinner with his wife. So
okay.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, Iowa's going to come out looking sharp, playing sharp on defense. Their punter is going to be Heisman quality as always. Because punter for Heisman would be very Iowa. I think the last week they didn't score a single touchdown. They got 15 points, wasn't it? Or they got one, but I think it was on defense. But anyways, probably get like 2 or 3 safeties on them. Look, Minnesota's offense is not good. They've got a running back, and that front seven for Iowa is about as in tune with each other as you'll find. And they've been practicing with the captain, the defensive lineman that the NCAA horrendously has kept from playing because he gambled, not on his own team, just anyways, that's a different rant. I think that this one will be Iowa, I don't know, maybe 10 or so points. Minnesota will come up blank.
Okay. Moen.
I would take Iowa, but I'm doing opposite, so I'm taking Minnesota. I think
Fair
they
enough.
block 3 punts for touchdowns
What?
because they can't
Well-
do anything offensively.
Well, but
Yeah.
Iowa has an all-star kicker. He's going to win the Heisman.
He's a punter, yeah. He
I
might
think we're
be
going to
nice.
put him in at QB in the fourth quarter to help in that effort.
Right. So, Moen, who'd you take? Iowa?
I'm Minnesota.
Minnesota. Okay. Immaculate already went. Ute?
Yeah, I'm going Iowa in this game. Iowa at home. I think they win by a touchdown. Yeah, the defense is too good here.
One
You get home
touchdown
field
score.
advantage.
I mean,
Okay.
you win
Yeah,
by
maybe
three field goals.
maybe it's
Win by
probably
3
going to be
field
like,
goals. We don't win by touchdowns.
it's 10-3.
All right.
9-3.
9-3. Jason, did you already say yours?
No, but I'll go with what Casting for Chrome says. Iowa by 2 scores. Those 2 scores be field goals. Yeah, Iowa
Okay.
by 2 scores.
Yeah, I'm going to take Iowa as well. And I'm going to also take for Utah USC. You want to go first or last?
I'll go last.
Okay, so I'm going to pick first, and I'm going to take Utah
Wow, Bomber.
with 7. I think USC is going to fall apart.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's my opinion. What do you think, Jason?
Oh, you know what I think. You know it's I got Utah
Yeah.
here. Come on.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Utah. Okay. Moen.
Yeah, I would take Utah normally, so I'm going to take USC.
There you go. I like it. USC, the 7 points is ridiculous. Can I just tell you right now, there's no way they score more than 7 points more than Utah does. It'll be a 3-0 game. So if Utah's getting any points, I think they cover. Immaculate.
I can't pick until I ask Phil some questions here because I meant to ask him about this game
Well,
last week, but we didn't get the chance.
Go ask.
What the heck happened to Utah? How did they score so many points? What's going on with this team? I gotta know.
Yeah, so the running a game has gotten going. Our stud running back has gotten back from injury, Jaquindon Jackson, plus a kid named Sione Vaki, who's basically an all-conference strong safety, came in and played running back. He played running back in high school, and he just went off on Cal. So all of a sudden, there's this 2-headed monster at running back that hasn't been there for many weeks.
So you guys are now running first, but which is allowing your quarterback to like do some play action work in the back.
Oh, the quarterback's not necessarily doing much play action.
No,
It's just running.
It didn't open up the quarterback play. It was just
No.
running, pure running.
The Utes don't have much of a passing game. I mean, I don't even know if we've passed
Yeah,
for
but
200 yards.
USC
already.
does not have a line.
Caleb-
Jason, does USC have a defensive line at all? All right, I'm going.
They have a
no,
defensive
I'm
line, but it's not very good. And
Going
the one
Utah.
thing the one thing that they'll do is they'll probably get a little bit of pressure. But if you're able to run the ball against them, that's going to bring them out of the box. So that's the thing with me. And the biggest thing with me is the fact that Utah's defense is so good, and Caleb is running for his life. He has been all freaking season.
Yep.
He has been all season, and so. The last 2 games, you've really seen it. The Arizona, and if you put 2 high safeties up there, which you know it's going to do,
Exactly.
it really screws with Caleb. And I also think that there's a lot of stuff I think about this game, but I think the biggest thing with Caleb right now, he got into bad habits. They don't have anything easy for him to do. To like throw off that 3rd step of the drop, get the ball out now. Everything is way downfield, and it's getting him hit when they play against good defensive fronts, the front 7. So I don't see it, man. I think that they're going to continue to struggle here. If they win this one, this might be the last one they win, though. Other than the Cal, they'll win.
I think that's true too.
Well, I picked Utah. I'm going with if they've got a running game, USC does not have a run defense.
There you go.
Man, you guys shock me. I thought everyone was going to pick USC in this game.
I think
It's
so
like
far it's
We
just
all saw the
just
same
Bowen,
game
right?
you did last week.
Well,
But
If
Bowman
they
said
would've
that you
beat-
take Utah.
If they would have beat Notre Dame, I would have taken USC.
I'll
Let's
tell
be
you what,
clear.
yeah, like at least online through conversations with their fans based on the spread and move from
Right.
6.5 to 7. Everybody's on USC. That's why it's shocking that everybody here is basically on Utah. I think this is a kind of game that Utah comes out and just absolutely plays man-sized physical football. You have to get to Caleb Williams. You have to be smart about it, though, because you have to keep him in the pocket. He's a good pocket player, but he's an outstanding outside the pocket players. So you have to keep them in the pocket, but you can't be too aggressive. You actually have to hold the integrity of the pocket and not just go right
Set the
beyond him
edge.
because he's so escapable. But you know that, Jason. So you have to play Caleb Williams a certain way that you still got to do it. They played him enough times.
I think you have to do that with everybody, any mobile quarterback at all. Though you have to make sure that your edge rush cannot ever end up further deep than what the quarterback is.
Bingo.
And so you got to set the edge there. Make sure that you do that. If you do that, you're going to be fine. And I think that right now he's kind of shell shocked. I just don't. Ticked off USC. They're soft as baby shit, man. They really are.
And you know, no one's talking about this too, but like all that stuff with Lincoln Riley, you know, like considering, or like there's a rumor with the Bears.
I think it's huge. It's huge.
Like, what's going on in that locker room right now?
Right.
Like, is there a lot of focus right now on this season and winning this game, or is it on Caleb getting NIL deals and, you know, saying everybody wants to be in his shoes and going pro and here with the Bears? If they don't come out to play, Utah's going to punch them so hard in the face and destroy them physically. Like, if Utah needs to play a physical football game, I think that they will, and I think they're going to win a close one. I'm on 28-27 Utah. It's out with the late rushing touchdown to win it, but it's going to be a battle.
All right. That's an awesome breakdown. Thanks, Ute. Appreciate it. I scrolled through a bunch of picks. It looks just by my straw poll. It was about 50-50 out there for the people watching, Ute. It was about 50-50 people for USC, and some people think USC is just going to roll. We haven't seen that up to this point. Why all of a sudden do we think they would do it against a top 5 defense? I can't figure. So I think the 7 points is I think USC is done. I think they are done. The team has quit. But
if Caleb Williams loses to Bryson Barnes, oh my goodness.
Right.
I love it.
All right, let's go to the next one. We have Texas Tech at BYU. Texas Tech is giving 3, so I'm taking BYU in the points. It's at night. So already know BYU is 27-3 in night games since 2019. Day games, they're 14-14. You do the math.
In this game,
it's Tech at BYU.
Oh, yes. Yeah, he's here.
This game's really, really, that's a good line for this game. It's right there. It's so hard to choose. I'm saying I'm taking BYU in the points here. A really, really close game, obviously, just like the line says. But I think the Cougars squeak this one out.
Tech's down to their third string quarterback. He was awful last week. BYU, easy.
Okay, BYU, good. Moen.
Well, I would take BYU because they've got that vampire power, but I'm going to go ahead and take Texas Tech.
It's absolutely vampire power for the win, baby. And Immaculate.
Too many factors all going in the way of BYU. First off, last week was, would you call that an embarrassment?
It was a disaster.
BYU is coming back. They're coming back at home. So you're getting the advantage at home that they have both in elevation and also at night game. Tech not looking good. Jason saying their third string quarterback. This is not their year. They are not in it this year. This -3, whoever gave that line, they're probably gonna have to get fired because it's gonna be nowhere close to that. This is gonna be BYU in a rout.
Okay, and who's last? Who hasn't gone?
That's everybody. Yeah, we're good on that one.
All right. No, I went. I said BYU. Tennessee at Alabama. I'm going to take, against my better judgment, Alabama.
I'm taking Alabama too. Against your better judgment. At home, too much power.
Let's go, Immaculate. Sorry, I'm reading all
You know, I really, really want to go with Tennessee on this one, but Bama's kind of getting better. I'm going to go Bama. I don't want to, but I'm not really that big of a fan of Tennessee this year, and Bama's getting better. So, Bama.
Okay. Moen?
I would normally pick Alabama, so I'm taking Tennessee.
There you go with the points. And Jason?
You know what? 9.5 is a lot. Neither one of these teams are scoring a lot of points. I think that they both try to grind it down. They play good defense in there. I think it's going to be – I think I think 9.5 points is a large spread. I think Bama wins the game, but I think it's by like, I think it's 17-13. So I'm gonna take the spread.
That is a lot of points. There's no doubt about it.
It is.
Mhm.
Duke at Florida State,
Wait.
14.5.
Apologies. You guys both went Bama? You and Nate?
Bama.
Okay.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah,
sorry.
I was Bama. That's
I just
okay.
need to get that written down.
Duke at Florida State, 14. I am going to take Florida State.
Is Leonard playing? Do we know any updates? It's quarterback for Duke.
I think he is. I think
Is
he
he?
is. That's been the, yeah, it's been trending that way all week. I don't know for sure that that's the case, but I'm pretty sure he is. Let me check real quick just to make sure. But
If he's
everything
playing,
I've seen is that he's going to play. He's been practicing all week.
yeah, I'm taking Duke and with the points here.
Duke, huh? Okay.
This is I'm calling it now. This is a show me game for Florida State. This is them trying to try out for those final 4 spots. I think they're doing everything they can to start putting up some glory points. I believe that. Moen.
I would normally take Florida State based exactly with what you said, so I'm taking Duke.
And you have bought into this.
But
Opposite of
I
yourself.
can't do much worse. So.
You're really bought
We'll see.
into this.
We'll see if it works.
Who hasn't picked?
Both. Jason, have you gone on this one?
I haven't.
You
Oh,
wanna
sorry,
go or you
Jason.
want me to
Go
go?
ahead.
I'm gonna go with Duke because they have not lost a game by more than 1 score in the 2 years that Mike Coco's been there. I don't think that I don't really buy into FSU that much anyway. I don't think that Jordan Travis is as good as everybody thinks he is, and I think that they're going to play very, very good defense on Duke. I think that they could win the game, but I love the points. 14.5. That's crazy.
Yeah. Everything inside of me is saying take the points, take Duke. But I think Florida State showed a little something last week. I think they have the talent to absolutely blow Duke out of the water. They have not lived up to their talent. Florida State is a much more talented team than Clemson. Duke coming to Florida State, I just don't see it. And as much as those points are, I think I'm going to have to go Florida State will actually overcome the points.
Okay, is that everybody?
That's everybody.
All right, I want to get a celebration here. Sooner Lemon has been a paid member of the channel for 2 months. I have a rally towel for you, Sooner Lemon. I need you to DM me your address or send me an email with your address so I can send it to you. It's big XII mafia at gmail.com. Or you can find me on Twitter. You know how to do that. But I need your address. You're the last one I have to send out.
Jason, I've always wanted to do this here. Will you do this with me?
Yep.
Boomer.
Sooner. Come on.
Yeah, Boomer. That's right.
Sooner.
There we go. That one's for you, Sooner Lemon.
All right. Thank you so much, Sooner Lemon. I'm going to leave your anniversary up there so everybody can see it. That's a big deal. 2 months for us is a long time, and we really, really appreciate it. Let's see here. So everybody picked that one. So now Washington State at Oregon -20. I think Oregon's going to put a beat down on Washington State. So I'm going to take Oregon and give the points.
Yeah, I'm going Washington State in this game. 20 is a lot. And Cam Ward's a good quarterback. And I think that they probably late cover. I think Oregon gets up big on them, but I could see Ward just put up 14, 17 points towards the end of the game and make this like a 14 to 10 point game. So I'm taking Washington State. Losing outright, though.
Very good. Jason.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to stick with Oregon after what we saw from Wazoo last week. Arizona just smoked them. And it's in Austin, so I'd take Oregon there.
Very good. Moen.
Yeah, I would normally say 20 points is way too much and take Washington State, so I'm going to take Oregon.
Yeah.
I think
Oregon
he talked
is
himself back
angry.
into the winning one.
Oregon is angry. Can I just say that? They are not a happy team right now. So
Hey, who did Washington State play? They played Arizona. What was the score of that game? Do you remember, Jason?
44 to something.
Yeah, 44-6 or something like that.
It was
Yeah.
wild, wasn't it?
It was
And
bad.
this is
Bad.
at Oregon. Their quarterback is good, but the difference between Washington State and Washington, I mean, they both got good quarterbacks. The difference is in the rest of the talent.
That's right.
And you're going up against Oregon's defense with lesser talent than what Washington had.
I think there's a reason that the spread is 20. I think it is.
Yeah,
It's
but even then,
kind of coming apart there.
I think Oregon wants to make a little point after last week. So, yeah, definitely Oregon.
Sooner Lemon, who's again one of our paid members, and who's also given us some super chats in the past. We really appreciate that. He wants to get his pick out here. He says, I'm going Oregon on this one. So I think a lot of people are expecting Oregon to do a bounce back game.
Consider this, guys. Washington State, this is their last crack at Oregon, and these are longtime rivals. Oregon's leaving the conference. Washington State's stuck. They're going to want this game too. So I think Washington State's going to play their hearts out. But we'll see what happens.
Yep, absolutely. That's what's great is we get to find out not in a very long time. We'll find out tomorrow. And all right, well, we're down to our last game, it looks like, and that is Clemson -3 at Miami. I'll go last on this one. So you?
Clemson. Smash it. Clemson.
Okay.
I think Miami is just spiraling down. The Hurricanes going the opposite way.
Right. Well, they're right now. All it is tryout for prime time to come over there. So anyway, let's go Immaculate.
This is tough because Miami, their quarterback is still out, right? Do we know that?
I don't know.
I didn't know he was out.
He went out in the last game.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not sure then. But if that's the case, then for sure that's an ezy pick.
Yeah, because they have the talent to run with Clemson. If they don't have their quarterback, I don't think that they have a good backup that we've seen or anything. So I think I'm gonna have to roll the Clemson, even though I'm a little iffy on this one. I think Miami has the talent to get a win on this one, but I'm gonna go Clemson.
Okay, Moen.
Yeah, I was going to go Miami simply because it's at home for Miami and they played Texas A&M tough there. So I'm going to pick Clemson.
Awesome. Jason.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Clemson if they don't have their quarterback. And the other thing is I think that the Georgia Tech game has lingered, and they weren't even kind of close last week, so I don't see Clemson losing this one. I agree with some more games down the stretch, but I don't think this is it.
3 points isn't enough to worry about either.
No,
I don't think. Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take Clemson, give the points. Mike Smith says at one time the Clemson and Miami game would seem to be like a killer game. Maybe it's just me now, but it seems like a meh game that I have no desire to watch. That it has fallen down. That's why the ACC has fallen apart, frankly. This is the exact
falling
reason.
off a rock.
Yeah.
Clemson's luster.
Dabo's got it. Dabo should go ahead and leave. If he's going to just run that freaking program into the ground by not using the portal that everybody else is using, then he should just go ahead and go.
I mean, to be Clemson and to not use the portal, it's just stupid. Like I mean, you can have your beliefs on stuff, but you got to look around and get a sense for what everyone else is doing and use your power.
Digging his heels in. We were talking about that on my show last night. Digging your heels in that way is so dumb. It's just so dumb.
Sooner Lemon with another comment, being a paid member and doing super chats. We appreciate it so much, Sooner Lemon. He says, I'm going Miami since it's a home game, so they might have a better chance. Yeah, your guess is as good as ours, I think.
It's possible, but
yeah,
just worried about their quarterback.
Yeah. Mike Smith says Dabo needs to check his ego.
He does.
And Casting for Chrome says he agrees with Jason. So there we go. I'll take that. Let me get to some other comments here before we start to wrap this up. A few things. Mike Smith says BYU at home at night. Cougars are hungry and on the prowl, really like Tech, but they will be shooting blanks.
Ooh.
Ask Baylor Ask Utah. There's a lot of teams that have lost in Provo at night.
Night games are tough. Yeah, in
Yeah.
Provo.
Let's see here. Get some more. I like this comment from Casting for Chrome. I mean, have you watched College Game Day recently?
Nope.
Yeah.
I haven't
Nobody
either.
has. No.
I watch Big Noon on Fox. I think it's
Yeah.
a better show.
It
I
is a
won't
better
watch it
show.
anymore because of McAfee. Honestly, guys, like it's
Yep.
just too much. Like he really rubbed me the wrong way with the Wazoo stuff. I'm not even
I
a Wazoo
agree
fan,
100%.
but I don't want to support that. I'm not going to watch
Yep.
it.
I don't even think just that. I think McAfee has kind of changed everyone else on the show as well. They've all kind of
They have.
shifted towards how he does things, and
Shock and awe.
I
Shock
don't
and
mind
awe.
if
Yeah.
he's on there, but I wanted to see them all kind of stay in their lanes.
It kind of has to stay the way it should have been. You know, everybody else is who they are, and he's who he is. It would.
Yeah, but they've all kind of gone in his direction.
That's because he's getting the money
weird.
they're not getting.
Maybe.
You know, he's leading the pack, and if shock jock journalism is what's getting them likes, they're going to do whatever they can to keep those people.
And
I
he's on
agree
the
with
sideline for
Cassie.
big games too, guys. Remember, like that
Yeah.
Texas Alabama
He's
game.
definitely
He and his
for a
whole
different-
entourage. You know, like
Yeah,
we're
and
doing the game on the sideline. I don't know.
Right.
He's for that different audience, that younger, crazier audience. I think. And I don't hate McAfee. I just don't think it fits here. I just don't like Game Day with him. I just don't.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
he's a
fine
little
with
over
him.
the top. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a little over the top, but I don't have a problem with his show per se. But I don't like him on that show.
Kirk Herbst.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Jason. I was just going to say Kirk Herbstreit's character has completely changed
Yes.
since the coach is dying basically on air, and he's really the only one that kept everybody else
Get
back.
him out of there too. Good.
Yeah,
grief.
that's elder
strange.
abuse. I think for him being on TV, it's elder abuse. But
He's
Kirk
never
Herbstreit
broken
has
out on
changed.
set, man. Nobody needs to see that shit.
Yeah, Kirk Herbstreit has changed. His character's changed. He's more confrontational. He gets in arguments with places like Washington State and Oregon State. I mean, he's done some really dumb stuff, and I think that all started with McAfee and Shock Jock stuff.
The Washington State stuff, it befuddles me. I just don't know what the hell that's about. Why would you do that? Why are you
I
messing
don't
with
know.
those people? They've been at every freaking game day since it started, and you're going to
Yep.
come in there and poke at them. Why?
Yes.
So dumb.
It is
It's
dumb.
a lack of class to.
Yes,
people may not like
absolutely.
that, but
Absolutely.
it's even if they weren't there following all that. I mean, these folks are kind of beat down by this, and you're going to sit there up on your throne up there and just punch down at them. It's just a
Yeah.
really bad.
well,
look.
especially after the way the Pac-12 blew up and
That's what I'm saying.
finding
yeah,
out
it's-
about the final numbers and the 50 million and the 30 million, and
Mhm.
it's just ESPN has not painted themselves well. Fox has come out of this realignment wave like perfume. They have done everything right, and I really think that
Good
ESPN's
perfumer.
going the other direction.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Cleveland Rock says streaming has been very disappointing for Disney. Indian investment has been a disaster. I don't know about the India investment. Does any of you guys know about that?
Mm.
No, but I'm
Okay.
sure if Disney did it, it was terrible.
Our web earlier in the show, we were talking about how the ACC and the SEC are being reflected by the coverage that is currently being provided as the sole partner for ESPN. And I don't think any one of us disagrees that that's starting to not look great.
Our
It
web,
certainly
the
doesn't
funniest
look
thing
good.
of all is like I didn't even think about the ACC. That's how irrelevant they are becoming. Like the SEC is ESPN, and like the ACC is just whatever. That
Yeah.
speaks to how insignificant this conference is becoming.
It's
Yeah, that's
absolutely
why-
true.
On top of that, you got to look at the way that their payment schedule is set up for that. It was a very back-heavy setup contract. So as much as people talk about how the ACC, it's a good deal, look how much they're paying out. That's changing in the future. And to me, when I look at that, that's good reason for ESPN to maybe cause some damage to the ACC so they can renegotiate that thing, because if they're hurting now, they're going to be starting to pay out a lot more on that.
That's
contract.
some conspiracy, some conspiracy
It is,
theory
but
stuff there.
business-wise, it makes sense because
They're
you're going-
hurting their own product.
because you're going from like 40 million payout per team in the
Ah,
few upcoming years. The projections are like 60 to 70 million
yeah, but
before that thing runs out, and it is not worth that much money.
to get ahead, they cut off an arm. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Sure,
Because
because
if these schools get pissed off and want to leave, they won't be broadcasting anything.
well, most of them, like we've been talking about, if 4 of them go to the SEC, look at Florida State against LSU. They got ratings that doubled other numbers against other ACC teams. You take Clemson, you put them in the SEC, you're increasing their ratings, and with those increases in ratings come with a much bigger increase in market ad buys.
So you think because the ACC is now a distressed stock, meaning it's under pressure, that it would be better for them to just roll the best teams into the SEC and use the ACC kind of like they use the Mountain, not the Mountain West, but the MAC or the AAC?
I'm just purely saying in terms of if enough schools leave the ACC, it's going to force a renegotiation. So they're getting all the cheap time of the ACC, the low payout, because it's a line graph going way up.
Right.
You get the cheap time down here and all the benefit of it without ever having to do the full payout at the end that you promised those schools. Because if those schools leave, you're going to force a renegotiation, which means a new contract, which starts it all over again.
Yeah.
As a business sense, I think it makes sense, especially for a company that is hurting, to get your brands into a conference that's going to get you a lot better ratings and a lot bigger ad buys.
But we saw from that ACC article that we talked about earlier that they're trying to be proactive. Wake Forest sees the writing on the wall. Wake Forest has been watching our show. He knows what you have said, what I've said, what you guys have said about how the ACC will disappear if they don't expand first and try to cover any losses they may have later. I don't know if anybody put them onto our show, but that's what we've been saying for 5 months. So knowing that, the conference is going to do everything it can to stay ahead of those numbers. They'll bring in Appalachian State next before they'll let those numbers go below. What is it, 15? So that they have to continue to be paid? I don't think they're going to let that happen.
I'm not a full believer in this 15 and you're good thing. I think
there was a number in the contract. I
understand there's a number in the contract, but you can still threaten to basically take it to court saying the consideration is not met. In the contract, it can say that, but just because a contract says something doesn't mean you can't take that before a judge and have them nullify it. To say that, say, Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina State, Virginia Tech all leave.
Yeah.
The value taken off the top of that conference is so great. There's no way you could go into court and say, well, we still have 15 teams. The value is the same, so the payout should be the same.
I don't know. Do you know that for sure? Or are you
that you can have a judge undo a contract because the consideration isn't there? Sure. Now, in the contract, they might say, if you have 15 teams, we'll do the payout. But there's still consideration in terms of like how much they're going to make off of it in terms of ad buys.
But that consideration is to protect the schools, not to protect the conference.
It's both sides.
ESPN.
Consideration has to be there on both
so
ends. So
ESPN would actually sue the conference because you're not good enough. Your quality's not as good. We don't care how many teams you have. We're going to lower your rate. That's what you're proposing?
Yeah, they're going to push for renegotiation. Absolutely.
That'll be interesting. If that happens, that'll be fascinating to watch.
I don't know if it'd be a lawsuit per se, or if you'd see what measures there are in the contract if there's like mediation clauses or if there's arbitration clauses. But yeah, I mean, if it comes down to it and they're actually hurting this bad for money, as we're pointing out, now, if they were flush with cash, maybe it's not worth it. But if you're hurting this bad and you can save yourself 15 million, 20 million a year on each school at 15 schools, do the math. You're talking some serious cash.
All right. This is something we're going to have to talk to Bob about because we're going into waters that have never been broached. We're talking about this stuff. It's crazy. All right. One last comment here. Conundrum. He says YouTube TV, Peacock, and everybody else is killing ESPN. Anybody want to add to that?
YouTube TV is a great product. So I'm not surprised. I don't know if you guys ever used that.
I have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have it. They pay ESPN.
Yeah, they do.
A bit. Yeah. Well, they pay them for the ESPN stuff. But I mean.
Yeah. Well, they're no different than a cable provider.
Right. No.
I wonder what kind of compensation they're getting versus a cable provider, though. Like, is
Right.
it apples to apples? Is it lower?
I have no idea.
YouTube,
I just
YouTube
know
makes a
YouTube
lot more
TV
money
keeps
than
going up.
ESPN does. Yeah, YouTube makes a lot more money than ESPN does. It's Google. It's the
Yeah.
second largest search engine in the world. They make plenty, a lot. The cable company itself may not, but the cable side of it itself may not yet, but I would guess that it is. I guess that it is. There's got a ton of subscriptions.
Mike Smith has a comment here. He says the worst person on ESPN is Stephen A. Smith. I would put what's his name up there with Stephen A. They're both blowhards.
Oh, Desmond Howard. I agree.
Desmond Howard is awful.
Desmond Howard.
Awful.
I just think that ESPN has some problems, and then they cut
I
good
hear him
people
laugh
like
on the
Steve
freaking
Young.
thing.
It's just dumb. Anyway.
Yeah. Desmond Howard, his stupid laugh it's after everything that freaking McAfee says. Everything.
Yeah, he is. He does follow around like a puppy. It's sad to watch,
Shut
actually.
up.
I think the whole show has gone downhill. It's unwatchable. The Fox Noon and all the Fox coverage has been the best for years now.
I don't
It's
like
just
Matt Leinart,
solidifying
though.
and stuff now. That's not bad.
He's a chump.
All right. Anyway, all right, let's stop it from there. Okay, let's go around the horn. We've done a lot on this show, got our picks done. We reviewed some news items. May or may not do a Spaces tomorrow. Not sure what Utes going to want to do with Utah. If BYU wins, I might do one. I'm going to the game, but might be able to do one later in the evening. Otherwise, we have a show on Monday that is now going on. You guys tell everybody about your Monday show, Moen.
Yeah, the Monday Mowing Quarterback. I get on there at 5 p.m. East. I talk shit. It's I have a couple drinks before I get on there, so I'm a little bit loose.
Dude, I totally am coming to watch this show.
You gotta do what you love. Gotta do
Yeah.
what you love.
I haven't received my invite yet, so I'm a little upset about it.
Well, nobody has. It's just me talking shit.
It's like, you guys are invited.
He's like, there's no door to this house.
He doesn't want any arguing. He just wants to say what he got to say.
Yeah.
Immaculate. What do you want to tell everybody?
I'm still watching the whole pack situation unfold. There's some chatter that's going out there we were looking at where folks are starting to think that something's going to pop up here the end of the week or the end of the next week. So until that happens, all the talk about the ACC and all that, it's just talk, in my opinion. They can't actually move. So I think that by the end of this month, I think we'll see something break free.
Very good. Let's see, Jason, you came in here. Did you have anything you wanted to talk about?
No, you can catch us on the Saturday night snap count with Fanatic Sports Network Saturday nights also, and then of course we have our Tuesday live show every Tuesday at 8:30 Eastern time. So catch us all there. You guys are all invited to join us on those shows too, man. And especially I was gonna get Immaculate and you're gonna have to join us on the Tuesday night show.
Mm-hmm.
And Mo, and I'd love to have you in there too, man. I love
Tuesday nights. All right.
Yeah, Tuesday nights, 8:30. I'll put you guys in a group and I'll send you guys the link.
All right.
Good.
We'll have to work that around our
You
show.
have one Tuesday also, right? Yeah.
We do, but we don't have to. I can move it. I can not do it one week. It'll be fine. We could do our show on Monday, but everybody's watching NFL. That's when we normally were. So Tuesday wasn't our natural day. It's only been since the season came on.
Well,
Set it up and
6:30. What is that? Central Time? Eastern?
8:30 Eastern.
So
Yeah,
it'd be
8:30.
6:30
Yeah, that's
Mountain.
generally when we're doing.
But we could do a shorter show of ours and then join Jason's.
Yeah.
So or Jason's first, right?
Sure.
We could do Jason's at 8:30 Eastern and then do that for half hour 45, and then we could always do ours after.
Yeah, we could work something out. We can work something. I don't mind really
Yeah.
moving it too. Sometimes that time slot is a little early, but for the East Coast guys that come on the show, like whenever I get Ray and them on.
Right.
Well,
Well, Jason, I would move it for you. So you just set it up, and we'll work around your show.
We'll figure it out. Yeah. Thanks,
Okay.
man. I
All right,
appreciate
of
you having me
course.
on it. Again, I love you guys' show, man. I don't want to mess with that either. So I
No,
love
it's
you
a-
guys' show myself.
We're pretty flexible though. We don't really care that much. Wild Ute. So
Yeah, things are fading to black out here.
I was
It's
gonna
getting
say,
dark
can you tell us kind of how we finish up this week and
Yeah,
going
you
into
know
the
what?
weekend?
It's still stuck and etched in my mind that this Michigan cheat stuff. It really bugs guys because they got in the playoff last year.
Right.
Like I was looking at the standings. I mean, there were a bunch of 2-loss teams sitting at 5, 6, and 7 in the final CFP poll. So okay, I can deal with that, I guess. But I feel like we really need to squawk about that and not allow this kind of cheating, especially from a program like Michigan after they've already been, sanctioned for hamburgers and whatever. Like that rubs the wrong way. So I really think that the NCAA, whoever needs to lay down a hammer on the Wolverines. Seriously. So that's point one, and point two is Utah's going to physically dominate USC tomorrow night. I want to see the most physical football game I've ever seen. I want to dominate the Trojans so bad. I want to crush them. I want to finish them. I never ever want to hear about the Trojans playing the Utes. They're never going to play the Utes again. This is the last time the Utes are going to get shot at them unless they end up in the Big Ten. So I'm just throwing out there for all the Ute folks out there. Let's make this the most miserable experience they've ever had. Serious about that. I want to take them out so bad. So I'll be watching for that tomorrow, and we'll see what happens.
All right.
Well, enjoy, everybody. Have a great Saturday. I hope all your teams win. I hope BYU wins. It'll be a great game. I don't think we had a game on the board that wasn't going to be, like a good one to watch. I think they're all quality matchups. So we encourage everybody to do that. It makes a big difference for us to follow us, and then also for our schools and the teams that we support. All right, we're going to get out of here. I appreciate everybody being here. If you're new to the channel, really quick before you leave, make sure you subscribe, leave us a comment or suggestion, and then think about paying to become a paid member. Super chats have been great tonight. I want to yell out to our super chat people. We had Sooner Lemon gave a couple. We also had Tony Lawson came in, and Cleveland Rocks with $20. You guys are awesome, and we really, really appreciate it. And thank you to all the members that showed up. BR, we're praying for you to get out of the hospital. You make sure that happens. Let us know if you need anything, okay? And I think we'll go from there. Other than that, everybody have a great night. Stay out of trouble, and we will talk next week. Talk to you later, and peace out, people.